Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Let me, first of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Kanadi. Now I am your moderator. I'm a staff of member of Direktorat of Teacher Professional Education, Ministry of Education and Culture, Research, Technology, and Higher Education. It's long was right. Ministry of Education and Culture, Research, Technology, and Higher Education. So I'll be hosting this event for maybe 1 or 2 next 2 hours. This now, as we know that this event is a teacher professional education scholarship session with the Michigan State University. Now on screen, so I can see Ibu Kristine Bowman. Hello, Professor Lynn Paine. I think I already met you in Jakarta, and Ibu Beth Herbel. Hello, Ibu Beth Herbel. You don't mind, right, if I call you Ibu, right? Ibu is madam in Indonesian language. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, unfortunately, this evening we don't have Pak Temu Ismail. He has another activity at the same time. And okay, so right now we have source person, Professor Lynn Paine, and also what is it? Our administrator, right? Ibu Bella. Halo, Ibu Bella. Yeah, Ibu
Halo,
Bella.
selamat malam.
Selamat malam, Ibu Bella Tirto Waluyo. Yeah, so I met you in the one activity in Park Hyatt Hotel. Okay, I think not too long. I would like to give time for Ibu Isabella to Tirto Waluyo to present about the scholarship program. Please.
Thank you so much. Good evening and good morning to my colleagues at Michigan State University. I will actually be very brief to introduce myself. I am Isabella Tirtawaluyo. I am the Associate Director for the Michigan State University Asian Studies Center here, and I'm delighted to have been able to recently do visits with my colleagues from the College of Education in Indonesia. So this is a follow-up of all our activities and engagement with ministry partners and university partners, as well as development partners. And I'm actually going to welcome my colleagues in the College of Education from the Office of International Studies and Education, Professor Lynn Paine, and then afterwards, Professor Kristine Bowman. Lynn, I welcome you to the podium.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It is a great honor and pleasure to be with you tonight. My name is Lynn Paine. I'm Associate Dean for International Studies in the College of Education. I'm also a professor in the Department of Teacher Education. And as Dr. Tirtawaluyo just said, Bella and I had the privilege of spending time with colleagues in Indonesia just about 2 weeks ago, meeting with colleagues in the Ministry of Education, Culture, Research, and Technology. And it's very clear that our long partnership with colleagues in Indonesia is at a time where we hope we can deepen and nurture these relationships. You'll be hearing much more about our College of Education in a minute, but I just want to say that it is an exciting time for us in our college to be in dialogue with you in Indonesia as you're engaged in such ambitious and important reforms. And we know that education and the continued development of education requires people working together, requires fresh ideas and diverse perspectives. And we think the kind of possibilities for MSU, College of Education, graduate programs in our college, and you as lecturers who are interested in our college programs, this is a great time for us to find out about our shared interest. So I'm going to say more later, but I want to welcome our Associate Dean for Academic and Student Affairs, Dr. Kristine Bowman, who will tell you more about the program today. And we have many colleagues here from Michigan State. So Kristine will introduce the plan that we have.
Good evening, everyone. It's wonderful to see you and to be with you. So here is what we were thinking about how we would spend our time together. So we want to let you know who all is here from MSU, give you a bit of information about the state of Michigan and our beautiful university, tell you more about our incredible college. And then we will have some faculty colleagues who are leading programs, doctoral programs throughout our institution. And so you'll get to hear from them directly about their programs. Finally, we'll talk a bit about the application process and the timeline. And then, of course, we will have time for your questions. So again, I'm Kristine Bowman, Associate Dean for Academic and Student Affairs in the College of Education, and I have the privilege of supporting our more than 12 doctoral programs across the college. And they're incredible both in their strength and also in the many different areas of education and health that they support. So you've already met our Associate Dean for International Studies and Programs, Dr. Lynn Paine, and I will ask our Associate Director, Dr. Julie Sinclair, to briefly introduce herself at this point.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to see all of you today and to introduce our programs to you. My name is Julie Sinclair, and I currently am the Associate Director in the Office of International Studies. So I work with international exchange and mobility. I'm also a graduate of the Higher Adult and Lifelong Education Program, and I'll be talking to you about that program later. Welcome.
Thank you. And as well, you have heard from Dr. Bella Turtualuyo, and she is not only Assistant Director in Asian Studies, but has a long connection with the College of Education, which we are absolutely delighted about. And you will meet a number of our program directors. A bit later in this session, Dr. BethAnn Smith will be joining us, and she will talk about the K-12 program, the Elementary and Secondary Education Administrators program. Dr. Beth Herbel-Eisenmann is also here, and she will talk about what we call PRIME, an interdisciplinary program in math education. Dr. Jennifer Schmidt is here. She will talk about our program in educational psychology and educational technology. And Dr. Sandra Crespo is here to talk about our program in curriculum instruction and teacher education. And for whoever is operating as the host for the meeting, if you could pin Sandra Crespo and Jennifer Schmidt as well, I think that will put us in good stead. And all right. So we want to tell you a bit about Michigan, where we are in the world, in a very different part of the world than you are. So 1837, Michigan became a state. And of course, we have indigenous populations that were here long before most of the rest of us and our ancestors. And so the name of Michigan actually comes from an Ojibwe term, an indigenous term, Michigama. Our state motto, if you seek a pleasant peninsula, look about you. The state of Michigan is just absolutely gorgeous, and you can see it highlighted in red in the map of the United States. So we're up in the northern part, and in fact, we have two peninsulas that comprise our state. We are located just down the street from the state capital of Lansing, so that gives us access to a lot of wonderful things going on here. The population of our entire state is about 10 million. Our governor is Gretchen Whitmer. And some things that Michigan is famous for: cars, cars, cars. That is definitely a prominent one in terms of automotive manufacturing. Breakfast cereal from the Kellogg Company, another interesting one. But really, this all ties back to agriculture, apples and cherries. And honestly, Michigan's just a great place to grow a lot of things. And then Motown music. So a few things that are more unique about our space. So as I mentioned, we are on lands that were previously occupied and enjoyed by Indigenous people. And in fact, we know them as the ancestral, traditional, contemporary lands of the Anishinaabe, Three Fires Confederacy of Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi people. And so we wanted to take a moment to recognize that. And the picture on the left is actually a picture from the middle of our campus. There's a beautiful river that runs through the middle of our campus. And so I didn't take this photo, but it is exactly the sort of image that I see when I walk to our buildings every day and I cross over the river. So our College of Education is really an exceptional college, not only in the state, not only in the country, but really across the world. And we're really so proud of the strength of our college in many, many different areas. Of course, our connection and our commitment to global education, I think, is a particular strength, and one that we have not only in the classroom, but also through our incredible partnerships like Dr. Paine and colleagues have been developing with you all. So as a college, we have 4 different departments. And in fact, you will hear from colleagues about programs that exist in 3 of those 4 departments today. We also have over 130 faculty members, over 3,000 total students, and about 400 of those are usually doctoral students, and alumni worldwide. So the reach of our college and the reach of Michigan State University is really incredible. So our PhD programs, we have some of the very best in the world. And you will hear from folks in many of these programs today. So these are numbers, and the numbers tell you something, but they don't tell you everything. The numbers tell you basically that by the metrics and by our peer reputations, we have very strong programs, which is absolutely true. And we also have programs that have wonderful faculty and staff who support our graduate students in a really incredible way throughout their whole doctoral journey. And as you meet our program leaders later in this, just a bit later in this program, coming up soon, you will definitely get to see what I mean by that. So now I'd like to turn to Dr. Lynn Paine to talk a bit more about our college's global commitments and involvement.
Thank you. So I'm so impressed at the size of this gathering today. If I read correctly, we have over 250 colleagues from Indonesia who've come on at night after a long day of work. I think it says something about perhaps the interest in the kinds of programs Michigan State has. And those programs are, as Dr. Bowman said, highly ranked by various metrics that are used. All of us who are educators can, of course, criticize metrics. We see the limitations of them, but it is true that our college's programs are highly regarded nationally and internationally. And I would argue that there are 2 particular reasons that are relevant to today that we should think about. One is that our college is highly ranked because we have amazing students in our doctoral programs. We are a college that is all about learning, and that we recognize that graduate programs are chances for thoughtful, experienced colleagues who come with their own understandings of education and the world to engage collaboratively in deeper learning. As faculty and staff, we learn along with those students, and so it's a very rich learning environment, whatever doctoral program there is in our college. And as Dr. Bowman says, there are several. But in addition, I think our programs are all enhanced by our commitments as a college to bringing in global perspectives that push each of us beyond what we know most immediately and directly. We recognize that today in the world, we can't think about education or well-being if we only think in limited parochial terms. And so we really have a commitment as a university to not only a vision of serving the land on which we work in our state and our local communities, but serving the world. And in our college, we're really committed to thinking about global education as an opportunity for all of us to be learning together. We see this as reciprocal learning, as learning that requires dialogue. And therefore, it is wonderful that in our doctoral programs, we have students who come as practitioners, as experienced educators from all kinds of institutions, all kinds of sectors, and all parts of the world. We also recognize that that brings challenges for any incoming student, and it brings challenges for our faculty working with our students and the diversity that they bring. But these are challenges we welcome, and I think we are increasingly working on trying to find ways to enhance our reciprocal learning. So I'm going to stop here and move to the next slide, please. So our global commitments involve, as I said, students and faculty. We have faculty who are from all over the world, and we have faculty, regardless of their passport or citizenship, are engaged in many kinds of international, comparative, or global work. Of the 130 so, and we have far more faculty than the 130 so tenured faculty, but of our many faculty, over 50 are engaged in some kind of global or international work. Our work, though, is not only global in its, for example, research, but we are really trying hard to think about how do we revise and enhance our curriculum, so our coursework, whether it is courses at MSU, courses virtually, or courses offered through education abroad, or non-credit bearing experiences. How do we create learning that, again, benefits from global and diverse perspectives? Our global activities include not only research and curriculum, but also lots of outreach and engagement. Here in the Lansing area, for example, we have a professional learning community of educators from districts around Michigan who meet with graduate students, including international graduate students, in monthly conversations about important core questions at the heart of education and social development. That Lattice program has existed for over 30 years, and it is an example of global in the local. We also have programs and engage in outreach far away. And I'm very excited that right now we're running a virtual short-term professional development program for lecturers on literacy in Indonesia, teacher education literacy issues with Indonesian teacher educators, and on curriculum design with Indonesian teacher educators. So we're eager to learn in collaboration with international partners. Next slide, please. I'll turn it over now to Kristine, to you.
Thank you. So thinking a bit more about our PhD programs, here are some things that are common across the different programs. So just to give you a sense of how they generally work. So our PhD programs usually are 5 years of full-time study. They are intensive research programs. The first 2 years, you will be taking courses, and those courses will be followed by a practicum where you identify a research question and start to investigate it and essentially pilot a small study or a small piece of research. Our programs might have preliminary exams, comprehensive exams, or both. So we do have some sort of overarching exam at the midpoint, usually, of most programs to check in and make sure that students are all understanding the broad aspects of the field that they're studying and that they have a sense of how those aspects fit together. After prelims or comps, students then really dive in on their area of expertise and work on the dissertation, which is an intensive research project, usually about 2 years of independent research and writing. So, as I mentioned, we have a number of departments in the college and a number of different PhD programs. One of our departments, Counseling, Education Psychology, and Education Technology, has a number of different programs in it. And I am pleased that my colleague, Dr. Jennifer Schmidt, is here to talk a bit about the EPET program and describe a bit about the program and let you know essentially what some options might be for participating in it. Dr. Schmidt, can I turn over to you for a few minutes here?
Certainly, thank you. You'll have to interrupt me if I talk too long. I'll just try to be brief here. So hi, I'm so pleased to be joining you this evening. Again, my name is Jennifer Schmidt, and I direct the Educational Psychology and Educational Technology program within the broader department that we're talking about right now. We abbreviate our program name to EPET. So if you hear me say the word EPET, that's what I'm talking about. EPET is a multidisciplinary program that focuses on two aspects of teaching and learning. One is educational psychology, which has to do with the study of human learning and motivation and development in educational settings, seen through a psychological lens. And then the other side is educational technology, which has to do with the study of powerful technologies to support teaching and learning. Our program is a very flexible one. Students in the program design their own focus in the educational psychology and educational technology sides of our program area. So some people focus very heavily on educational technology, and they study things like online learning, the use of social media in teaching and learning, culturally sustaining uses of technology. Those are just some examples of things that people study on the ed tech side. On the ed psych, educational psychology side, people study learning and motivation in elementary school, high school, college settings, and the types of teaching supports that that teachers may use to support students' motivation and engagement and development. Very often this work is done in the context of a particular subject area. So someone might study mathematics, for example, and teaching and learning in mathematics or engineering. So there's a lot of flexibility, and many of us work at the intersections of these educational psychology and educational technology fields. So what does it mean to motivate and engage someone in online education, for example? I think some of the areas of interest of the faculty and students in the EPET program might be very desirable to folks interested in global learning. We have found over the years that the technologies available these days have really opened up the world as a place for learning. How am I doing on time, Kristine? Would this be a good time to pause and pass it along, I think? Or is there something else?
I think this would be a good transition point. I have one quick question for you first. Do folks usually have a background in psychology before they think about your program, or do they come from all sorts of different backgrounds and experiences? That's
a great question. Some people do have backgrounds in psychology, others don't. So it's not a requirement of the program. We get people who enter the program through psychology and also just kind of through the education side. So we have people who have experience as teachers without a whole lot of psychological background, and they can be very competitive applicants and very successful in the program as well.
All right. Thank you very much.
Certainly.
Okay. So I'm not sure. Actually, let's turn to Dr. Julie Sinclair to talk about our HAIL program. And then we'll see if Dr. BethAnn Smith has joined us to talk a bit about K-12.
Kristine, just so you know, Dr. Uziak is here from K-12, just in case BethAnn can't join.
Wonderful. Okay, great.
So he's with us as well. So good morning or good evening again, everyone. My name again is Julie, and I'm actually a graduate of the Higher Adult and Lifelong Education Program, or HALE. So I'm not the program director as the others you're hearing from, but I'm a graduate of the program. So I'm also very clear on the benefits and the opportunities this program provides. We refer to it as HALE for short. You see, we like abbreviations. Higher education is a program that doesn't often exist in many other countries. So this may be a program you're not as familiar with, but I want to encourage you to think about this. So it focuses on understanding post-secondary education, so higher education in all its aspects, and that includes the policy of higher education, the governance and administration of higher education, teaching and learning in higher education, student development, leadership. And this program prepares students both to be professors and also administrators. So that is my case. I am a lifelong administrator. That means I have been working to support university programs my whole career, and in my case, international exchange, as I mentioned before. So this program prepares people both to teach and do research at the university level, as well as to seek administrative and leadership roles in higher education. As Dr. Bowman already mentioned, it's often a 5-year program. Occasionally, students will finish in 4, and the coursework is quite flexible. You have a core amount of courses that you take so that you have foundations in all areas of university and higher education. You have research methods that you will take. And then you also have an opportunity to choose coursework based on your interest. And so I found that it's a program that will prepare you to be in a leadership or teaching and research role in a university itself. Just to let you know, they are having an online open house the evening of November 10th here. It will be very early morning on November 11th for you, and we're happy to send on those details later. It's on Zoom, so if you're interested in HALE, you could join that remotely and learn directly from the faculty. This program is ranked number 4 in the nation in higher education programs. And it's one of the largest higher education programs in the country as well, which means there are professors with many diverse interests within higher adult and lifelong education. The program also considers education beyond the university. What kinds of adult learning needs are there following university, or for adults that maybe didn't finish university and want to return? So I think I'll stop there for now, but happy to answer questions later.
Thank you very much. Dr. Uziak, could we turn to you for a brief description of our K-12 administration program? And if Dr. Smith has been able to join us, then we might hear from her as well.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. And of course, I'll welcome my colleague, Dr. BethAnn Smith, to hop in if she's here. There are hundreds of you, and so I could very well have missed her name in the long list of participants. It's really an honor to be representing. Oh, good. Dr. Smith is here. Woo! All right. Well, there's the link. And I'm here as, like Julie, a representative of not only of being on staff. I'm an associate professor in this department, but I also am a graduate of the K-12 PhD program several years ago. And I'm going to kick it over to Dr. Smith then.
Hello, BethAnn. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi.
I know you're balancing a lot of things and coming to us from Albania today. So we really appreciate you joining us. So at this point, if you'd be able to give us maybe a 3-minute, 3 or 4 minute description of your program and talk about some of the global connections and the types of research that students do in your program, that would be wonderful. You have arrived just at the perfect time.
Okay, so I'm not sure, I can't see myself, so hopefully all of you can see me. But anyway, we are the K-12 unit inside the Department of Educational Administration, and we have 3 kinds of programs. We have a master's program, and I'm not sure if that's an interest for any in this audience. That program is very much focused on developing school-level leaders. We, unlike other programs in the college, we have 2 different kinds of doctoral programs. We have an EDD program. It is a 3-year program. It is focused specifically on developing advanced systems leadership knowledge. It is an inquiry-oriented program. It's a novel 3-year program that's designed around intensive group work and collaboration from start all the way through a dissertation and practice. And then we have a PhD program that draws in people interested in school community relationships, leadership, the development of school organizations, and the role of those things as they interact sometimes with policy, with serving particular communities. And we have a broad range of research that stretches across those topics. We have always loved to have international scholars join us in our programs. They really enrich the programs for everyone. And I'll stop there for now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay. So our Department of Teacher Education has our PhD program in Curriculum, Instruction, and Teacher Education. And my colleague, Dr. Sandra Crespo, is here to talk a bit about that.
Good morning, good evening. It's great to meet everyone, and very excited about hearing about this program. Many years ago, I was also an international student who was excited about going abroad to do my PhD at the University of British Columbia in Canada. I grew up in the Dominican Republic, traveled half the world to get there, and so on. So I can just imagine the excitement that is in this room. Virtual room. So I want to tell you a little bit about what we do in our program. Our program director is Dr. Alicia Alonso. My role is as the Associate Chair of Graduate Education, so I oversee both the Master's and the PhD program. Many of our students come with a teaching background, meaning that they have been K-12 schools teachers, but that's not necessarily the case. We have also had have students who have come as undergraduates, or also that come with a broader background on foundations or foundations of education, sociology of education, philosophy of education, grounding. Our students have many opportunities. Doctoral education is more than just taking courses. If we think about the major, in the 5 years, what happens is that the pre-comps time is typically of taking courses and completing some of those milestones. The students are advised by a temporary advisor when they come in, but then the students get to choose and consolidate who they want to work with. For the other piece that is important is that we often, I said, the program is not only taking courses. Our students have multiple experiences working in research projects, working as TAs, that mean teaching assistants, that are assisting the course instructors across the teaching mission, both in the undergraduate program and in the master's program, which is fully online. We also provide many opportunities for service, participating in the governance of the department, and also mentorship within the site program, but also in national settings. For example, many of our faculty are editors of journals or participate in national and international organizations, many of whom are. Well, stop there. And if there are any questions about anything about the program, please don't hesitate to email or me or Dr. Alicia Alonso. Is that enough, Kristine?
Oh, that is wonderful. That's just right. Thank you so much. So the last program that we want to tell you a bit about is actually a program that we do in collaboration with another college. And so I would say that a lot of our programs are quite interdisciplinary, and this is certainly one that is especially interdisciplinary. So Dr. Beth Herbel-Eisenmann will talk to you about this program.
Good morning or good evening, everybody. As Dr. Crespo said, it's very exciting to be here and to meet you all. I'm currently the director for the PhD program in mathematics education. And as Dr. Bowman just said, it's actually a program that is coordinated by both the College of Natural Sciences and the College of Education. Although we don't have a national ranking like the other programs, we do have a survey that's given frequently to the math education community, and we have been rated #1 for the program that most faculty recommend to to graduate students who want to do a PhD in mathematics education. The coursework involves some coursework related to mathematics or mathematical knowledge for teaching, and some of the coursework relates to education, and you can take courses in many of the coursework in many of the programs that have already been mentioned. So in curriculum instruction and teacher education, some people take coursework in educational psychology and ed tech. So you develop a specialization in an area that you're interested in and focus on mathematics education. Our faculty work in multiple departments and colleges, and they also teach courses and advise PhD students in math education. We do a range of research. Some people focus on curriculum and developing and studying mathematics curriculum. Other people study teaching and learning. We have a very strong emphasis on issues of equity, focusing on social justice, and things like discourse and how teachers and students interact with one another. We have people that do research in undergraduate mathematics education, and some people who do research in K-12 schools. Most of our PhD students have either taught middle school or high school mathematics, or some people have a master's in mathematics and decide that they want to work on a PhD in math education. So I'll stop there. I would be excited to talk with you about the programs, or we have a coordinator. I'm going to drop the link to our program in the chat so that you have easy access to it. And thank you for your time, and it's nice to meet you all.
Thank you so much. And for anyone who is interested in math education and preparing math teachers, this is definitely a program to keep on your radar. Okay, so here's a bit of information about, again, how things usually work for most of our programs. So we ask candidates to apply directly to a specific program. So thinking about your research interests and how that matches up with a particular program is incredibly important, because in doctoral education especially, we want to know what you are so interested in studying that you're interested in doing it for the next few years. And we want to make sure you're in a program where we can really support that. Additionally, it's important to pay attention to program application deadlines. Those are on programs' websites. So that's a good source of information. But as a general matter, those are usually around December 1st. So those are coming up. And then the program faculty decide who will be admitted to particular programs. And they make those decisions sometimes in December, but often in January. So it's a fairly quick turnaround. And important for a lot of folks on this call, I believe. So LPDP funding application process, I think, is happening around the same time as all of this. So it's likely that folks will need to apply to both of those things at the same time. And that is the end of our formal presentation from Michigan State University. So I have not been able to keep an eye on the chat. I see it is full. I'm sure it has a lot of good information and questions. And let's see. Bella, what are your thoughts about where we go from here?
Thank you. Yeah, Julie and I think, have been sort of monitoring the chat, and we see a couple of questions that are asked by multiple individuals. If you can talk about GRE requirements for the different programs, as well as language proficiency requirements to get us started off. And then I think there are a couple of other questions that we see again and again.
Great. Okay. So thanks for all of these wonderful questions. So the GRE, some programs require the GRE, but other programs do not. So that is going to be something that you will want to look at on the program website. And since we have these program directors here, I'm wondering if we could quickly go around and have them name their program and whether they require the GRE or not. Dr. Schmidt.
Sure. Yeah, the GRE is required for the program in educational psychology and educational technology, but I'd like to emphasize that it is one of many data points and is never the sole basis of our decision. We do not require a minimum. If anything, we use the GRE as an opportunity to just talk about strengths and challenges and interests.
Thank you. Dr. Herbel-Eisenmann. Sorry.
So since I've only been the program director for a month and a half, I can't remember if we no longer require the GRE or not. So I'm looking it up and I will drop it in the chat as soon as I do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not a problem. Dr. Crespo.
Our side program does no longer require it. So it is not required. I dropped it in the chat. But again, it's even when it was required for the side program, I want to echo what Jen Schmidt just said, which was that it is one of many considerations in the application.
And for Hale, it's not required for the higher adult and lifelong education program.
All right. And I see Dr. Smith comment that this is GRE is not required in K-12 either. So again, it varies by program. Program website is a great source of information on that. As far as language proficiency, that the university expectation is that the TOEFL score be 80 or higher. And there are, over the past couple of years, there have been various other scores, various other mechanisms that the university has accepted, given some challenges due to the global pandemic, with folks getting access to testing sites. Additionally, if anyone has an undergraduate or master's degree from a university where English is the primary language, that is often accepted as well. I also saw one other program, can we apply regardless of age? Yes, we do not consider students' age at all as a factor in making admissions decisions.
Great, thank you, Kristine. Lynn, you have a couple of notes here for our participants.
Yes, I just want to, I want to acknowledge that this is very stressful. We have 350 people interested. You've just heard the deadline is December 1st. I'm already feeling nervous. So I can imagine that you're feeling very nervous. I want to emphasize a couple of things. First, we recognize that the admissions process is multi-step. You've heard the faculty leads here say it's multidimensional. So the most important thing is for you to think about your interest and where the right match is, where the right home is for your interest. I think that our college may be unusual, even in the US, and certainly I think it's unusual internationally, in that we have so many programs that have rather focused interests, and yet they also allow, as Dr. Schmidt said, for EPET, they allow choice within that interest. So even though your natural response might be quick, I have to start applying today, you will be a better applicant if you take time first to go to those websites where we're giving you the links, to look at the faculty research interests, to look at the curriculum of the program, and to think about what is your own interest. Where are you currently? Some of you say, my background is STEM. I have an economics of education background. My master's is in administration. Where you have been is quite relevant, but we also want to know, where do you want to go? So your background, for example, may be economics of education, but if the role you want to play is about policy, or it's about teacher issues, or it's about teacher education, that might determine which of our programs you choose. So it requires, I would say, quickly to look at these websites, and not only at the website, but to follow up through the websites. You can find faculty in the program. In each of our programs, as Dr. Bowman said, we do not have a central admissions process. Unlike at the undergraduate level, the decisions about admission are at the program, and they're made by faculty members who try to find the best match of our strengths as a program, our goals as a program, and the strengths that applicants bring. So this question of matching your current and future goals with what you see as the focus of the program is really quite important. And we're not able independently to determine that. You really have to know what you bring and where you want to go. I do think you should feel free, as our colleagues from Michigan State have said, certainly email the colleagues who are program directors if you have questions. I will also say, you can imagine that each of our program directors is getting a huge amount of email. So please only write them after you've already done some research. Go to the website, look at the program, and then send a more specific question. That's my particular recommendation. I think if you follow that, you have a greater chance of finding the better match, the better home, and you would be a stronger candidate.
I'm so glad you contributed that. I support that advice wholeheartedly. So Dr. Paine is very generous to be suggesting that and highlighting ways to strengthen your application. So I'm really glad she added that.
There's also a couple of questions with regard to financial support or financial aid. Dr. Bowman, Dr. Paine, we know that there's the LPDP scheme that, our participants can definitely benefit from, but any other alternatives or supplementary for especially the latter years of the PhD program, especially when the program length exceeds the sort of time for the LPDP benefits. Any information on that?
Christine,
Isabella, I think Professor Lynn, commonly, how long do we need to finish in basic program in your campus?
So 5 years is standard as far as program length.
5 years.
Yes. And I can say a few things about about supports that we generally provide. And I'm hopeful Dr. Paine can add to that, talking about LPDP and other things that I'm not already thinking of. So a lot of the time when we admit graduate students to our programs, they are provided with 5 years of funding. But
5 years of funding, right?
Yes. And how that works is that students are required to work 20 hours a week, either on research for a faculty member or helping to teach courses. And so in exchange for that 20 hours of work a week, the students are provided a stipend, health insurance, and a tuition waiver. And so as we think about our general admissions practices across the college, that's usually how that is set up. And also that guarantee is made for 5 years as long as a student is progressing in a satisfactory way within the program. And I know Dr. Paine has additional information and nuance to add to that.
Dr. Bowman's description, I think, is the important one that characterizes many of our programs. We know that LPDP funding is for 4 years. I should say that on some occasions, students are able to finish in 4 years, but that is not typical. And so no one should apply saying, I must be finished in 4 years. I think that puts extreme pressure on a student and the faculty with whom they work. But it has happened. It is possible. It is also possible that students come with external funding from their home Ministry of Education or some other source that is funding for part of their program, but not necessarily for 5 years. In these case-to-case bases, the programs really have to make a decision. So we're not able to speak in an abstract way about what would happen to a student who comes with LPDP funding if they apply to a program where there isn't a guarantee of 5-year funding. So I know the funding issue is crucial. I think that should not be the first thing that a candidate consider. I think they should consider where they will best thrive. They should make a strong case in their application, and then we see what's possible. We do have, in addition to the funding that is through the programs, and programs vary in that regard. So if we use the program that I'm most associated with, the SITE program in teacher education, it does guarantee 5 years of funding. But if there's another program where there's not 5 years of funding guaranteed, this is a university where students often can still find later scholarships and opportunities in the program, in the college outside of the program, or even outside of the College of Education. We do have graduate assistantships, for example, in other parts of the university where someone who comes with an education background is highly valued, to be working and thinking about curriculum redesign in another program, undergraduate education in another program, and so on. So I hesitate. I don't want people to ignore the funding issue, but we recognize that there's a mismatch between LPDP 4 years and our expectation of 5 years. I don't think it's an impossible problem, but I don't think we can speak in a generic way about how it can be solved.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Lynn and Kristine Bowman. So I would like to say hello to all participants. We have 4 or 5 participants, so they raise their hands. Pak Samtidar. Maybe I would like to choose the person who has picture. Okay, Mr. Saparudin Marfaung.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm here.
Samtidar is for my name.
Come on, show your face, please.
Okay, my question is just actually in the chat. Is there any classes in Michigan State University? They have a attending class or full research, no classes like? Yeah, I mean, is there any classes for doing PhD in Michigan University, like in Indonesia, we have a class in a doctorate degree, or no classes, not only full research? Thank you.
Let me jump in, and I think Julie Sinclair will also want to add. This is a PhD degree in any of the programs in our college. It is a blend of a taught degree, taught courses, where we have courses that students and faculty come together with a syllabus to learn, and we have independent research that is part of your degree program. And that independent research is given course credit. So a student must complete a certain amount of independent research before they can graduate, but they also must, as foundation, take some courses as well. Which courses and how many and how long vary with the program. But as Dr. Bowman said, generally it's 2 years or 3 years of courses with independent research starting at some point by the middle of one's PhD program, and taking independent research, guided research, but independent research. Julie, do you want to add?
No, just to agree with that the U.S. model is quite different from some other countries that you may be familiar with those models for British PhDs or Australian PhDs that are fully research-based. And when you apply, you have to give them your PhD dissertation topic. That's not the case here. You would take your courses and develop your research interests as you go. You may come in with a very strong research interest, but you also may find that it changes. That was my case. I was so sure I knew what I wanted to write a dissertation on, but it changed quite a bit as I took courses and learned more. And so the model, and that's why our programs take longer than they do in some other countries, because we do have a different model, but it allows you to really explore interest broadly and to learn about other areas that are not your direct areas, which I think often will strengthen your work in the future. So.
Sorry, what happened if I don't, one of the class that I took, for example, I didn't pass the class, what happened? So is it going to be stopped? We don't do the research for the next? In case I didn't pass the classes, for example, that are sitting class, and then is it stopped there and I can't continue my research?
I will say that the model that Julie has described is rooted in certain views of learning that we have in our college, and that also may be in some sense quintessentially part of U.S. education. If a student is accepted in our program, we actually expect them to succeed. So our courses are set up not with the goal of weeding out students. We do not expect students to fail. There's a great deal of support for students in our courses. If a student struggles, if they were to fail, they can retake the class. They are not immediately eliminated from the program. But I should say it's very rare. I'm looking at my MSU colleagues. It is very rare that a student would fail, a doctoral student would fail a class. There would be many signals before failing a class and many opportunities for support and added support. Do any MSU people want to add to that?
I agree with that.
Sorry, Kristine. I was going to say the same thing.
So I'm trying to think of situations. I mean, honestly, sometimes really difficult and challenging things happen in someone's life, right? And so their studies need to be put on hold for some period of time. And that's the only type of situation I can think of where someone might be in a situation where they would not be successful in a class. But really, our faculty work very closely with students, and so have a good sense of what's going on with students. And if there is some sort of unusual personal situation, are very supportive of that in different ways and very attentive to that.
Okay.
Excellent answer. Thank you.
Ibu Bella.
Ya, Pak.
Bapak Ibu, di Indonesia itu ada kita punya agen dari MSU, Ibu Bella Tirto Waluyo. Jadi bahasanya apa? Kalau jadi agen apa namanya? Agent?
Saya bukan agen, Pak. Saya staff full time di Michigan State.
Oh iya, staff Michigan University ya. Maybe not Michigan, maybe Michigama State University. Michigama State University. And yes. For you all participants, you can contact to Mbak Isabella, ya, Isabella Tirto Waluyo. Maybe you can put your maybe your email address or something, and in order all participants can contact you. Well, right? Yeah.
May I, Pak? May I suggest a few? Yeah, I would suggest that do contact the specific programs as well directly, because as Dr. Paine mentioned, Dr. Bowman mentioned, the application process is quite specific to the different programs, even though all programs will require a university application. But in terms of a match between your background and what the programs are able to offer, please first find all the information that's available online. And the way to do that is to read through the program description and also look through the curriculum. And there are even a listing of required courses. There are a listing of the structure of the entire PhD program, as well as a listing of all the lecturers, all the professors that are within each of the department. Their backgrounds, their research backgrounds will be the key to how you are going to find whether specific programs are a match for your background and interests and career trajectory. So I would, I'm definitely open to having you contact me for all types of information, but I do also suggest that there's a lot of information that is available online as well. So, Pak Kanadi, I do notice one more specific tension, Pak, and a question with regard to letters of acceptance. And Dr. BethAnn Smith mentioned to me that, in the university application process, even though the application goes to each of the program, the process of applying requires a financial proof processing. And within, I think, the LPDP scheme, it would be sufficient to have a affidavit of support from the LPDP, basically from the government, stating that, there is funding available from LPDP if the recipient has been selected. So I think that is something we have to note as well. A very specific sort of step there that might stop the entire process. So that's just something that I wanted to add. I think any other additional information from my colleagues? Or
I think what Professor Lynn suggested to all here is very good. I think all candidates should visit website, and feel free to find anything about the MSU, and then maybe you can answer yourself by visiting the websites. It's a good suggestion from Professor Lynn Paine. Thank you. Maybe we still have 5 minutes, Mbak Bella, to finish.
Sure. Yeah. If my colleagues are still available, do you mind a few more minutes of questions? Okay. Yes, Pak. Pak Karadi, silakan.
I think we have to raise hands from participants. Oke, Pak Ferdi Fauzan, please.
Apa namanya? Sintak-sintaknya sampai nanti muncul.
Please.
Okay, thank you so much, Pak Karnadi.
Pak Ferdi Fauzan.
Okay, can you hear my voice?
Yeah.
Hello? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Ferdi Fauzan. I'm from Jakarta. I just wonder, is it possible for someone who got the letter of rejection before on this EPAT to re-enroll this program with another research proposal? Or do you have any suggestion?
So I can speak to that. So this past year, we tried a different sort of application process that was necessary because of the timing. What that meant is that folks from Indonesia were applying after our programs had already selected their new students for admission. And so essentially, only if there were any gaps that were unexpected were we able to admit additional students. So I think it would be good to follow up with Dr. Jennifer Schmidt, the director of the program, and she would be able to tell you whether she thinks that your research proposal is a good match with a faculty member, and she would encourage you to apply again, because it's entirely possible that you may not have been accepted simply because we did not have any spots available. However, it may be that there are ways to improve your application. And so I think that would be valuable to ask that question. Now, I also want to emphasize that I think this is a relatively unique situation where you would want to reach out to the program director with this sort of question. But because of your experience, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Thanks. Thanks, Kristine.
Okay, Bella atau Professor Lynn Paine, final statement.
Yes, so I think maybe before we close, I do want to acknowledge and introduce our colleague from the College of Arts and Letters, Dr. Trixie Long Smith, who is the director of the Writing Center. I wonder, Dr. Smith, are you still on? Oh, yes. Would you like to introduce yourself and your center and how you can support the either prospective students or admitted PhD students? Yeah.
Sure, thank you. As she said, I'm Dr. Smith, and I am in the Department of Writing, Rhetoric, and American Cultures, but we run the Writing Center that serves the whole university. And we have a mission to serve the MSU community, very broadly defined. And so that includes applicants who want to be a part of the MSU community and connections. To have a one-on-one appointment with someone in the Writing Center, you would just need to go to our website. I'll put that in the chat, writing.msu.edu. And that would take you to our website, there's a button on the homepage that says schedule an appointment. And from there, you would just need to set up an account. It does ask you for a student number, but in that space, you can just put a set of zeros and it'll take you right through. And that way you can set up an appointment. Appointments can happen online via Zoom. We also have asynchronous appointments, which are done through email. So either of those types of appointments might work for you to work with a colleague on application materials and to get feedback. We do run our online center from 9 in the morning here till 9 at night. So there are some options for finding possible times to meet up. Once you're here at MSU, you can come meet with us in person or continue to meet with us online. And we do a lot of different, we continue to do one-on-one for students. We also have graduate writing groups. We help for some of you who may be TAing in classes, teaching in classes. We have workshops that you can utilize for your classes. So we have a lot of different resources to help you once you're a student here. But beforehand, we are happy to help people with applications.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's enough, Ms. Isabella, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Professor Lynn Paine, Ibu Kristine Bowman, thank you very much, and also Dr. Melmeri Usiak, she's in Albania now, right? And also Dr. BethAnn Smith, Dr. Sandra M Crespo, and Dr. Beth Herbel, and also Dr. Trixie Smith, right? Thank you very much. You are very kindly to present about Michigan University program in. I hope that from this meeting, all participants can understand. And I have 1 minute for you, Isabella, please, because you are what is it staff for MSU? So you have responsibility to provide more information about MSU for next time, right? Please, 1 minute, please.
Excuse me, Pila. May I have a question before you close?
Yeah, Prof. Sianto.
Yeah, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just interrupt. Yeah, and for maybe I'm questioning for Pila or Professor Lynn. My question is whether or not we can have a kind of sandwich program so that we will have a double degree between Michigan State University and one of the university in Indonesia on such a special department, for instance, on mathematics, for instance, because I think in UNJ, Yogyakarta State University, we will have also a PhD program on mathematics, for instance. If it is possible, I think it's a good idea for the future to have sandwich program between Michigan State, especially College of Education, with Universitas Negeri Yogyakarta. Please, Bella.
Miss Bella, Pak Suyanto is a professor of I'm sorry, Prof. I'm sorry I couldn't see you. Salam takim. Respect you all. Thank you very much, Pak Suyanto. Please, Mbak Bella.
Yeah, I'm going to welcome Prof. Lynn Paine for this. Thank you, Prof. Yanto. Yeah, go ahead.
Prof. Yanto, thank you for that question. And I want to publicly thank Bella for being this bridge between MSU and colleagues all over Indonesia. She is doing a very important job, and she's also taking on responsibility far beyond what she has time for in helping the College of Education. So we like to think of her as part of our college, but officially she's not in our college. So I'm going to answer Pak Suyanto, and I'm going to ask Kristine Bowman as well. That idea of a sandwich program is of great interest. It was raised with the ministry while we were in Indonesia a couple of weeks ago. It is something we would want to explore, but nothing that could be designed quickly. It requires a great deal of bureaucratic, first decision about whether this is something that would be desirable, and then a long bureaucratic process. So for our colleagues on today's call, they should not wait for a sandwich program. If they're interested, given the opportunities of LPDP, they should consider whether there is the right program for them, whether this is the right moment in their career development to apply, and they should apply. So it might be that in the future that could be one, but I think that's not certain and is certainly not going to be immediately known. Okay. Kristine, do you want to add?
Thank you, Professor Lee.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, Prof. Santa, thank you, and Dr. Lynn Paine, thank you. I just to conclude really quickly, I am very grateful of our collaboration with the Ministry of Education, Research and Education, Culture, Research and Technology, and also the Director General for PPG for having us hold this information session. We saw the need for this session so that prospective applicants and our colleagues in teacher education system in Indonesia can know what MSU can be a resource and how MSU could be a resource. As Dr. Lynn Paine mentioned, that I represent the larger sort of international studies and programs component and unit at Michigan State University. If there is a need, and I would love to work directly with Director General PPG to also provide information on PhD programs, on other programs that are related to education beyond or outside of the College of Education. For example, we have programs in that's related to early childhood in the human development and family and child development program. We have programs in the second language studies. There's a lot of English teachers, English education folks here. If that is of interest, I could definitely also contact my colleagues beyond the College of Education to provide information. But again, we are very thankful for your time. I know it's very late in the evening, but we do hope for a very productive time that we've had in sort of the applications that might come and be considered. And we would love to welcome more Indonesian scholars to Michigan State University in the College of Education and beyond. So thank you again, Pak Kanadi, and all the participants and my colleagues, my esteemed colleagues from MSU College of Education. Thank you and have a good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you, Brian. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Isabella ada nomor kontak.